The Terracotta Army is a collection of terracotta sculptures depicting the armies of Qin Shi Huang, the first emperor of China. It is a form of funerary art buried with the emperor in 210–209 BCE and whose purpose was to protect the emperor in his afterlife. The figures, dating from approximately the late 3rd century BCE, were discovered in 1974 by local farmers in Lintong District, Xi'an, Shaanxi province. The figures vary in height according to the roles, with the tallest being the generals. The figures include warriors, chariots and horses. Estimates from 2007 were that the 3 pits containing the Terracotta Army held more than 8,000 soldiers, 130 chariots with 520 horses and 150 cavalry horses, the majority of which remained buried in the pits nearby Qin Shi Huang's mausoleum. Other terracotta non-military figures were found in other pits, including officials, acrobats, strongmen and musicians. History. The construction of the tomb was described by historian Sima Qian in his most noted work Shi, written a century after the mausoleum's completion. Work on the mausoleum began in 246 BCE, soon after Emperor Qin ascended the throne, and the project eventually involved 700,000 workers. Geographer Li Daoyuan, writing 6 centuries after the first emperor's death, recorded in Shui Jingzhou that Mount Li was a favored location due to its auspicious geology, famed for its jade mines. Its northern side was rich in gold, and its southern side rich in beautiful jade. The first emperor, covetous of its fine reputation, therefore chose to be buried there. Sima Qian wrote that the first emperor was buried with palaces, towers, officials, valuable artifacts and wondrous objects. According to this account, 100 flowing rivers were simulated using mercury, and above them the ceiling was decorated with heavenly bodies below which were the features of the land. Some translations of this passage refer to models or imitations. However, those words were not used in the original text, which makes no mention of the Terracotta Army. High levels of mercury were found in the soil of the tomb mound, giving credence to Sima Qian's account. Later historical accounts suggested that the tomb had been looted by Xiang Yu, a contender from the throne after the death of the first emperor. However, there are indications that the tomb may not have been plundered. Discovery. The Terracotta Army was discovered on the 29th of March 1974 to the east of Xi'an in Shaanxi province by farmers digging a water well approximately 1.6 kilometers east of the Qin Emperor's tomb mound at Mount Li, a region riddled with underground springs and watercourses. For centuries, occasional reports mentioned pieces of terracotta figures and fragments of the Qin necropolis, roofing tiles, bricks and chunks of masonry. This discovery prompted Chinese archaeologists to investigate, revealing the largest pottery figurine group ever found in China. A museum complex has since been constructed over the area, with the largest pit enclosed within with a large structure, necropolis. The Terracotta Army is part of a much larger necropolis. The necropolis was constructed as a microcosm of the emperor's imperial palace compound, and covers a large area around the tomb mound of the first emperor. The earthen tomb mound is located at the foot of Mount Li and built in a pyramidal shape, and is surrounded by 2 solidly built rammed earth walls with gateway entrances. The necropolis consists of several offices, halls, stables, other structures, as well as an imperial park placed around the tomb mound. The warriors stand guard to the east of the tomb. Up to 5 meters of reddish, sandy soil had accumulated over the site in the 2 millennia following its construction, but archaeologists found evidence of earlier disturbances at the site. During the excavations near the Mount Lee burial mound, archaeologists found several graves dating from the 18th and 19th centuries, where diggers had apparently struck terracotta fragments. These were discarded as worthless and used along with soil to backfill the excavations. The tomb appears to be a hermetically sealed space the size of a football pitch. The tomb remains unopened, possibly due to concerns over preservation of its artifacts. For example, after the excavation of the Terracotta Army, the painted surface present on some terracotta figures began to flake and fade. The lacquer covering the paint can curl in 15 seconds once exposed as irons dry air and can flake off in just 4 minutes. Excavation site. Pits. 4 main pits approximately 7 meters deep have been excavated. These are located approximately 1.5 kilometers east of the burial mound. The soldiers within were laid out as if to protect the tomb from the east where all the Qin emperor's conquered states lay. Pit 1. Pit 1, which is 230 meters long and 62 meters wide, contains the main army of more than 6,000 figures. Pit 1 has 11 corridors, most of which are more than 3 meters wide and paved with small bricks with a wooden ceiling supported by large beams and posts. This design was also used for the tombs of nobles and would have resembled palace hallways when built. The wooden ceilings were covered with reed mats and layers of clay for waterproofing, and then mounded with more soil, raising them about 2 to 3 meters above the surrounding ground level when completed. Others. Pit 2 has cavalry and infantry units as well as war chariots and is thought to represent a military guard. Pit 3 is the command post, with high-ranking officers and a war chariot. Pit 4 is empty, perhaps left unfinished by its builders. Some of the figures in Pit 1 and 2 show fire damage, while remains of burnt ceiling rafters have also been found. These, together with the missing weapons, have been taken as evidence of the reported looting by Xi'an and the subsequent burning of the site, which is thought to have caused the roof to collapse and crush the army figures below. The terracotta figures currently on display have been restored from the fragments. Other pits that formed the necropolis also have been excavated. These pits lie within and outside the walls surrounding the tomb mound. They variously contain bronze carriages, terracotta figures of entertainers such as acrobats and strongmen, officials, stone armor suits, burial sites of horses, rare animals and laborers, as well as bronze cranes and ducks set in an underground park. Warrior figures. Construction. The Terracotta Army figures were manufactured in workshops by government laborers and local craftsmen using local materials. Heads, arms, legs, and torsos were created separately and then assembled. 8 face molds were most likely used, with clay added after assembly to provide individual facial features. It is believed that the warriors' legs were made in much the same way that terracotta drainage pipes were manufactured at the time. This would classify the process as assembly line production, with specific parts manufactured and assembled after being fired, as opposed to crafting one solid piece and subsequently firing it. In those times of tight imperial control, each workshop was required to inscribe its name on items produced to ensure quality control. This has aided modern historians in verifying which workshops were commandeered to make tiles and other mundane items for the Terracotta Army. Upon completion, the terracotta figures were placed in the pits in precise military formation according to rank and duty. The terracotta figures are life-sized. They vary in height, uniform, and hairstyle in accordance with rank. Originally, the figures were also painted with bright pigments, variously colored pink, red, green, blue, black, brown, white and lilac. The colored lacquer finish and individual facial features would have given the figures a realistic feel. However, much of the color coating had flaked off or become greatly faded. There is speculation of a possible Hellenistic link to these sculptures, due to the lack of life-sized and realistic sculptures prior to the Qin dynasty, according to some scholars. Weaponry. Most of the figures originally held real weapons such as spears, swords, or crossbows, and the use of actual weapons would have increased the figure's realism. Most of the original weapons, however, were looted shortly after the creation of the army, or have rotted away. Nevertheless, many weapons such as swords, spears, battle axes, scimitars, shields, crossbows, and arrowheads were found in the pits. Some of these weapons, such as the swords, are sharp and were coated with a 10 to 15 micrometer layer of chromium dioxide that kept the swords rust-free for 2,000 years. The swords contain an alloy of copper, tin, and other elements including nickel, magnesium, and cobalt. Some carry inscriptions that date manufacture between 245 and 228 BCE, indicating they were used as weapons before the burials. An important element of the army is the chariot, of which 4 types were found. In battle, the fighting chariots formed pairs at the head of a unit of infantry. The principal weapon of the charioteers was the dagger axe, an L-shaped bronze blade mounted on a long shaft used for sweeping and poking at the enemy. Infantrymen also carried on shorter shafts, halberds and spears and lances, for close fighting and defense. Both charioteers and infantrymen carried double-edged straight swords. The archers carried crossbows with sophisticated trigger mechanisms, capable of shooting arrows farther than 800 meters. Exhibitions. A collection of 120 objects from the mausoleum and 12 terracotta warriors were displayed at the British Museum in London as its special exhibition. The First Emperor, China's Terracotta Army, from the 13th of September 2007 to April 2008. This exhibition made 2008 the British Museum's most successful year and made the British Museum the United Kingdom's top cultural attraction between 2007 and 2008. The exhibition brought the most visitors to the museum since the King Tutankhamun exhibition in 1972. It was reported that the 400,000 advance tickets sold out so fast that the museum extended its opening hours until midnight. According to the Times, many people had to be turned away, despite the extended hours. During the day of events to mark the Chinese New Year, the crush was so intense that the gates to the museum had to be shut. The Terracotta Army has been described as the only other set of historic artifacts that can draw a crowd by the name alone. Warriors and other artifacts were exhibited to the public at the Forum de Barcelona in Barcelona between the 9th of May and the 26th of September 2004. It was their most successful exhibition ever. The same exhibition was presented at the Fundación Canal de Isabel II in Madrid between October 2004 and January 2005, the most successful ever. From December 2009 to May 2010, the exhibition was shown in the Centro Cultural La Moneda in Santiago de Chile. The exhibition traveled to North America and visited worldwide museums such as the Asian Art Museum of San Francisco, Bowers Museum in Santa Ana, California, Houston Museum of Natural Science, High Museum of Art in Atlanta, National Geographic Society Museum in Washington, D.C., and the Royal Ontario Museum in Toronto. Subsequently, the exhibition traveled to Sweden and was hosted in the Museum of Far Eastern Antiquities between the 28th of August 2010 and the 20th of January 2011. An exhibition entitled The First Emperor, China's Entombed Warriors, presenting 120 artifacts, was hosted at the Art Gallery of New South Wales between the 2nd of December 2010 and the 13th of March 2011. An exhibition entitled L'Empire Guerrier de Chine et son armée acute de Terracotta, featuring artifacts including statues from the mausoleum, was hosted by the Montreal Museum of Fine Arts from the 11th of February 2011 to the 26th of June 2011. In Italy, from July 2008 to November 16, 2008, 5 of the warriors of the Terracotta Army were exposed in Turin at the Museum of Antiquities, and from the 16th of April 2010 to the 5th of September 2010 were exposed 9 warriors in Milan, at the Royal Palace, at the exhibition entitled The Two Empires. The group consisted of a horse, a counselor, and archer, and 6 lancers. The Treasures of Ancient China exhibition, showcasing 2 terracotta soldiers and other artifacts, including the Longmen Grotto's Buddhist statues, was held between the 19th of February 2011 and the 7th of November 2011 in 4 locations in India: National Museum of New Delhi, Prince of Wales Museum in Mumbai, Salar Jung Museum in Hyderabad, and National Library of India in Kolkata. Soldiers and related items were on display from March 15, 2013 to November 17, 2013 at the Historical Museum of Bern. Scientific research. In 2007, scientists at Stanford University and the Advanced Light Source Facility in Berkeley, California reported that powder diffraction experiments combined with energy dispersive X-ray spectroscopy and micro-X-ray fluorescence analysis showed that the process of producing terracotta figures colored with Chinese purple dye consisting of barium copper silicate was derived from the knowledge gained by Taoist alchemists in their attempts to synthesize jade ornaments. Since 2006, an international team of researchers at the UCL Institute of Archaeology have been using analytical chemistry techniques to uncover more details about the production techniques employed in the creation of the Terracotta Army. Using X-ray fluorescence spectrometry of 40,000 bronze arrowheads bundled in groups of 100, the researchers reported that the arrowheads within a single bundle formed a relatively tight cluster that was different from other bundles. In addition, the presence or absence of metal impurities was consistent within bundles, based on the arrow's chemical compositions. The researchers concluded that a cellular manufacturing system similar to the one used in a modern Toyota factory, as opposed to a continuous assembly line in the early days of automobile industry, was employed. Grinding and polishing marks visible under a scanning electron microscope provide evidence for the earliest industrial use of lathes for polishing. Gallery. Bibliography. Clements, Jonathan. The First Emperor of China. Sutton. ISBN 9780750939607. Debye and Frankfurt, Corinne. The Search for Ancient China. Discoveries. New York. Harry N. Abrams. ISBN 9780810928503. Dillon, Michael. China, A Historical and Cultural Dictionary. Durham East Asia Series. Richmond, Surrey, Curzon, ISBN 9780700704392. Portal, Jane. The First Emperor, China's Terracotta Army. Harvard University Press. ISBN 9780674026971. Lederose, Lothar. A Magic Army for the Emperor. 10,000 Things. Module and Mass Production in Chinese Art. The A. W. Mellin Lectures in the Fine Arts. Princeton, N.J. Princeton University Press. ISBN 9780691009575. Perkins, Dorothy. Encyclopedia of China. The Essential Reference to China, Its History and Culture. New York. Facts on File. ISBN 9780816043743.